All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the core ideas of a pretty wild book called Get Outta Here Alive. We're talking a mix of quantum physics, alchemy, and shamanism, all rolled into one to seriously challenge how we see the world.
So right off the bat, the book hits us with this super haunting idea from Edgar Allan Poe. This is basically the big idea we're going to unpack. What if everything we think is real isn't? What if it's all just a dream?
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into that whole dream within a dream idea. Then, we'll talk about this crazy battle for our attention. After that, we'll look at the way out. And finally, we'll cover the actual tools the book gives us to take back our power. Let's get into it.
All right, Section 1. Let's really dig into this first big claim. The idea that our reality is, well, some kind of shared illusion, a construct that we're all taking part in, whether we know it or not.
You know, the book makes this awesome comparison to Plato's allegory of the cave. Remember that one, where the prisoners think shadows are real? Well, it takes that ancient idea and gives it a modern twist with quantum physics. Turns out, when you zoom way, way in, the solid stuff we see around us isn't solid at all. It's mostly empty space. Kind of mind-blowing, right? There's really no there.
And this isn't just philosophy. A physicist, Arthur Stanley Eddington, basically said the same thing. Think about it. The only thing you really experience directly is your own mind, your own consciousness. Everything else, this room, this screen, the whole world is just an inference your mind makes. The book says that's the real stuff of the universe, this mind stuff. And what shapes it? Our attention.
So this all leads to a massive question, doesn't it? If life is a dream, can we actually wake up? Are we just NPCs, non-player characters in some pre-written story? Or can we grab the controls and become conscious players? Well, according to this book, the answer is a big, resounding yes.
Okay, on to the next part. This is where it gets really interesting. Because if our attention is what shapes reality, that makes it the most valuable thing we have. And there's a secret war being fought over it.
So who is really in control here? Seriously, take a second and think about it. Are your thoughts? Are the things you want, the things you're afraid of, are they really coming from you, or is something else pulling the strings?
To get at this idea of manipulation, the book brings in this antagonist, and it calls it the dragon. Now, we're not talking about some fairy tale creature here. It's described as this parasitic, non-physical intelligence that, get this, basically farms us humans for our energy.
So, what's on the menu for this dragon? Well, that brings us to this concept called loosh. That's the name for its food source. And what is it? It's our raw emotional energy, especially the really intense stuff. Fear, anger, suffering. You know that feeling of collective anxiety you get from watching the news 24/7, or the nonstop outrage you see in online comment sections? Yeah, according to the book, that's loosh.
Okay, but how do you generate that much loosh on a global scale? The book says the main control mechanism is something called mimetic desire. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. We want things because other people want them. It's the whole reason a new phone launch or a limited edition pair of sneakers can cause an absolute frenzy. We get pulled into these dramas, these conflicts, these rivalries, and all of it just creates a never-ending buffet of loosh.
So what's the end result? The book basically describes it as a hostile takeover of our own minds. It's like our original thoughts, our own genuine feelings, get overwritten with installed programs, these manufactured desires and stories. And before we know it, those programs are steering our emotions and actions, and we become these predictable little batteries.
So, if that's the problem, how in the world do you solve it? Well, according to the book, you don't fight this thing head on. That's its game. The only way out is in.
And this is a really key point. The book argues that a lot of what we think of as fighting back, activism, getting deep into conspiracy theories, is actually a trap. It just drains our energy and, you guessed it, creates more loosh. So instead of fighting an external battle, the real path to freedom is an internal one. It's a classic hero's journey, but the journey is inside yourself.
Now, this inner journey isn't about just sitting around and thinking. No, it's about action. It's about simplifying your life, finding the real power that comes from silence, facing those parts of yourself you'd rather ignore, your shadow self, and consciously unplugging from all the external drama. It's about plugging the leaks and stopping the energy drain.
And speaking of the shadow, this quote from Carl Jung just nails it. The book really hammers this home. You can't be truly whole. You can't be truly powerful
until you're willing to go down into your own personal hell and face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding.
Okay, this brings us to the final and maybe most important part. We've talked about the problem and the path. Now let's get into the actual tools, the specific, hands-on techniques the book offers to make this inner journey happen.
All right, tool number 1 is something called shamanic recapitulation. It sounds complicated, but it's basically a breathing exercise. The whole point is to go back through your memories one by one and use your breath to pull back all the energy you lost in those moments. It's not about reliving trauma, it's about reclaiming what's yours.
The second big tool is inner alchemy. And yeah, this is as cool as it sounds. It's a whole process for gathering up raw energy, refining it inside yourself, and then storing it in your center. Think of it like charging up your own internal power pack.
And what's the end goal of all this? To build your own philosopher's stone. No, not a literal rock. We're talking about creating a super dense, super stable core of energy inside you. It's like building an internal powerhouse that gives you more awareness, more strength, and ultimately, the ability to navigate this dream on your own terms.
So when you boil it all down, it all comes back to one thing: your attention. The book says your attention is the original currency. It's the most valuable thing in the universe. And every single moment, you're making a choice. Are you going to spend that currency feeding the system, or are you going to invest it in yourself and build your own power?
And that's really the question this whole explainer leaves us with, isn't it? Your attention is your power. In a world that's doing everything it can to grab it, where are you going to point it? What will you choose to create with it?